So welcome to the annual Blessing of the Animals, which we try to schedule every year near the Feast of St. Francis. Because he was, you've seen the statues of him with birds on his arm. It's two now, okay. And also, he was accompanied by a wolf named Rubio, about whom there are a lot of stories as well. So he's our representative, I guess, wild animal. We'll light the chalice. You have copies? Do you have copies of the words? You can read along with me.
Oh, no, they don't. I'm sorry, you don't have it. Sorry. Okay, I thought you meant us. Okay.
We light this chalice. Okay. You're going to read it?
We light this chalice, spark of the original fire of creation, to remind us that we all on this planet, the furred, the feathered, the finned, and the scaled, along with us featherless bipeds, are all made of the same star stuff, and all share a common destiny. We all share the same hopes of a life free from harm and suffering, and the same aspirations of happiness, love, flourishing, being able to express our own unique natures and capacities is the best we may. We are just that many diverse perspectives from which the whole is seen and experienced. We are intertwined, interconnected, and interdependent, and it is good. Blessed be. Blessed be. Sorry, my pages are broken. This is called, should I use the mic? This is called Dogs Go to Heaven by Megan Osborne. You're the best friend I could ever ask for, the only one I can talk to. You listen to everything I have to say. I'm really going to miss you. You're growing old and can't walk as fast. But don't you worry, I won't forget about our past. I love the comfort you offer, except when you chewed up my shoe. But it's okay, we all make mistakes. I'm really going to miss you. We love to play ball, chasing it down the hill. You're the hairiest of them all, but you still get the chills. It's almost time to go. Don't worry about me, and do it slow, and forget about all the fleas. I love you with all my heart, the best friend I'll ever have. I'm really going to miss you. I love you, and that will never change. Okay, this is the time in our service when we share our stories. Would you like to start?
Golly, I've had a life happily filled with animals, but Frost was the most intelligent of all of them, and she obeyed my every command, even when it wasn't intended. Like once I was standing on a high cliff in California looking out at the ocean, and I said, I bet she could jump, and she did. So you had to be really careful. The kids thought she could probably cook if I let her near the stove. So, in fact, once I told the neighborhood children that she wasn't with me that day for a walk because she was home baking a cake, and they believed me. So.
And I had a Samoyed named Kodiak for 8 years. And I also had a van that I used to travel around with Roxy and everywhere. And that dog was our constant companion. Who would like to start the stories out there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I talk pretty loud.
Okay. Should I try it?
You can definitely.
Okay.
Okay, so we went to this little church in Stockton where we used to live. And we were walking in and we had no pets at that time. And there was this little tiny kitty cat on the steps. I mean, it was infant, you know, and so I bent down and I remember him saying, "You're gonna get your skirt all dirty." And I said, "No, I don't care." And so it was a Catholic church, and so we're in there and he's standing there praying, and I said, "You better be praying that cat's not out there." And it was. So I picked up the cat, and it was a tuxedo cat, so it had a little thing on its chest. And this friend of ours said, "Well, why don't you call it Raider?" Guess who got to stay? And his name was Raider. Yeah. So then we moved back here, and then we figured we couldn't have another cat, so we got this one. And she was at the shelter, and I can't imagine why, but she's really cool. And Ruben thinks she's his service dog. So she's pretty cool.
How about yes, please?
I loved how our doggy Ranger used to play chase with Eric in the house. We used to live in a house that had a circle that went dining room, kitchen, hallway, den, back through the living room, a big circle. And Eric would run through the house and Ranger would, arr, arr, arr. He would chase him and yap at him like, "Stop, Daddy, stop." And then when he finally caught him, they'd reverse it and Ranger would start running in the opposite direction and Eric would chase him. It was so sweet, so sweet. Very nice.
Rox, do you have one? Name an animal that you loved a lot.
Oh, I loved April very much. She was our toy poodle who started out black and turned silver. She weighed about 6 pounds, and she lived to be 18 years old.
Wow.
She was very much loved and very gentle and sweet.
How about you, Don?
I have so many stories, but I guess I'll talk about Sheila, who was my familiar. My children were babies when we first started getting cats. You know, first we got Pearl, who was a white calico kitty. Then we got Princess a year later, and my daughters were 2 and 4. So Princess was their baby sister. And they dressed her up in doll clothes and wheeled her around in the stroller, and they all grew up together as sisters. And then Princess lived to be 12, and then she got cancer. And when we finally had to take her to that last vet visit to get her crossed over, it broke all of our hearts because none of us had been through that before. And the kids were still children, so it was really hard having to explain it to them. And just a few days later, we went camping, and one of the people that lived at the camp, they were caretakers there, they had feral cats around, and one of them had a litter, and they gave my daughter this teeny tiny black kitten, and he was only 5 weeks old. He wasn't old enough to separate from his mom, but we were only going to be there for the weekend, and the cats would have had a feral wife ahead of them, and he probably wouldn't have survived. So we took him home and got some kitten formula and raised him, and he lived almost 17 years.
Wow.
And at first he was bonded with her, and then she grew up and moved out, and he and I bonded, and he was like the closest, dearest kitty friend I've ever had.
Danny?
Well, most of you know our dog Collie. The most significant dog in my life was my dog Schlepp. And they got Schlepp about 66, I guess it was. And picked him up at the dog pound and had a rehearsal for this dance group I was part of, and brought him back there, and little puppy, and first thing Schlepp did is pissed all over the choreography notes of the dancing. Okay, clearly Schlepp and I were going to have a future. Then it was probably about 67. We were heading across country, stopped to see a buddy who actually just died last week in Cincinnati. And Schlepp disappeared for 4 days in the middle of Cincinnati. I even got a radio station to put out an APB from. and then he showed up with this shit-eating grin on his face. Apparently he had just hit puberty, and he was not interested in me. But after 4 days of doing his thing, he came back. We then headed further across country, and he saved my life. We hiked down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, spent a week there, and the guy I met at hike, but he got sick and had to get his ass hauled out. And on the way of my coming out, I got sick too, probably from drinking from the Colorado River, because we had no water with us. And I'd go about 100 yards, fall over in the old mule shit, and Schlepp would come over and lick my face, okay? And that'd get me up to another 100 yards, and that's how I finally got out. At which point, the cops busted me for taking my dog, Schlepp, to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. It turns out to be a federal crime, completed trial. And my favorite picture, which we had at our wedding, one of our pictures, is my mug shot. You know, with all I've done, my federal mug shot is for taking my dog to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And this is the same year when Congress had basically passed a law to allow the damming of the Grand Canyon. Okay? And this is when the Sierra Club lost its nonprofit status originally, because it put ads. One of the lines for damming the Grand Canyon was so that people in boats could see the walls closer if it turned into a lake. And they put in an ad in something showing the Sistine Chapel and said, "Would you flood the Sistine Chapel so you can see Michelangelo's artwork a little closer?" Well, then when I left the country the next year, I gave Schlepp to some friends of mine, Tungle and Millie, and didn't see him for a couple of years while I was doing my stuff abroad. Came back, went up to Cornell, and just as the weekend, the blacks took over the straight student union with guns, which it seemed an appropriate time for me to show up there. And also Clinton Rossiter, who was a big professor, killed himself then. Anyway, there's a big meeting going on in Barton Hall, which is the ROTC headquarters. It's about 5,000 people there sitting on the floor. I decide to go. I go there, and suddenly in the middle of this very serious campus-wide thing, I see Schlepp about 20 yards away across 500 people. Schlepp sees me. The president of the university is giving this big serious talk. Schlepp starts howling. Needless to say, I hadn't seen my dog, so I started howling. Schlepp proceeds to bound over all these people sitting on the floor and come to me. That was my Schlepp.
Wow.
And don't get him started on Cully. That
Yeah.
will be here.
I guess Jenny Anybots. Jenny was my daughter's cat. But before she came, Liz had 2 kittens that she watched get born. From birth, she took copious notes and used it as her, I don't know, 7th grade maybe, science project and won a prize. She loved those 2 cats. Well, unfortunately, since we were in the Foreign Service, we were reposted. Her Rascal and, what's the other cat's name? Mittens, maybe. Liz wanted to take them with us. And the problem was we were going back to the States for the summer and then going to Bangladesh. So we finally, after a long search, found somebody who would watch the 2 cats until we arrived in Bangladesh and then would send them to us. And so we didn't know these people, but we were told that, you know, they're really animal people and they will take good care. We took the animals over. They lived way out in the country, actually right near where our new school was being built. And we went home and came back to Bangladesh, and when we arrived, there was a message for us that the kittens had gotten away and disappeared. They had searched all over and could not find them. Well, you got to know, my daughter was devastated. And she wanted cats, and you know, she was devastated because these were lost. Well, we were in Bangladesh. There were no pet stores. There were no, you know, you had to find people who had cats, and they had dogs around, but we didn't see any cats. And we kept saying, well, if we could find one, Liz, you know, we'll have another one. Well, one weekend, our cook went home for the weekend, as he did, and when he came back, he called Liz out to the front stoop. And he had a little basket, woven basket, all closed up. You know, it was woven, so there was air coming in. And Liz looked at it, and I came out, and he proceeded to take off the string that tied it together, or the hay, whatever it was, opened it up, and there was a little kitten, a little Jenny Anydots, as Liz named her, just looking up at us that he had found in his village, where, you know, and had brought to her. So Jenny came to us from Faisal, and she became very beloved. And after 4 years in Bangladesh, yep, we're reposted, this time back to the States. Well, we were all attached to Jenny Anydots. Nobody was going to get rid of her. And we were not going to ship her because we had had bad experiences. So I took it upon myself to tell my husband, she's coming in the car, in with me in the airplane and flying to Washington, and we were eventually going to Honduras. So Jenny flew with us. She was very good, except for going up and down. She didn't like that. She was so good, the stewardess came over, and I was petting her without trying to take her out, trying to keep her calm. And the stewardess said, come on, take her out. And I said, yeah, and she'll never go back in, forget it. Oh, but she's so pretty. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. So we went back to Baltimore, where Jay's parents lived, and Jenny adapted to Baltimore. So that was the second continent, actually. And, well, actually, it was the third, because she had to go through Europe. She was in Bangladesh and Asia, went to Europe, stayed overnight in Belgium, and then she stayed with my in-laws while we did language training, and then I took her again in the cabin down to Honduras with me. And she lived in Honduras for 4 years with us. Was a great cat, liked Honduras, you know, and climbed up on our wall and did all kinds of things. And then we were transferred back here. So I took her again back. And that was a real deal. I mean, of all the other places, I had to have more paper from the vets in Honduras to prove everything. I had to have shots right before she left. They had to go to the Ministry of Health, which, you know, and get this official paper. So I had a packet like yay thick. And I get into the United States with the cat in a carrying case by myself, because my husband traveled separately. And the guy wanted to know, you know, what was in there. And I said, it was a cat. He said, oh, you have to take it out. And I said, oh, yep, it has to go through the metal detector.
Oh.
And I said, and I handed him the papers, and he said, no, no bother, just take the cat out. I was in there, but I spent hours, you know, getting these. So I had to hold her while they x-rayed the carrying case while I got through, and she did very well, put her back in the carrying case, and she got here, and she lived here with us. But she was a cat that was used to exploring outside, and she wanted to go outside. I could not let her not go outside. And I was new to the area, did not know a lot about coyotes. And she would go out and walk around our little wall and, you know, and at times jump over it because she saw rabbits or something that she was interested in. But she'd always come back. And so one day I was cooking dinner, and she had gone out to do her afternoon run, and I didn't see her, and I went out and called her. She didn't come, put down her food. Still hadn't heard from her. Finally called my husband and said, Jenny has not called. So we went outside. Never found her collar, nothing else, and I assumed the coyotes found her. So I miss Jenny Anydots, what we called our three-continental cat, because she was an amazing cat, just really super calm and sweet. And adjusted to actually 3 different homes because she adjusted to my in-laws, who had like 3 dogs and cats, and she still adjusted that. She was an amazing cat. Yeah. I miss her.
Well, the image I've been thinking about is when my daughters were growing up. we each had a cat, and there were two family dogs. There was a St. Bernard, who was not very bright, but very sweet, and if she wanted to hug you, you better sit down on the floor. Her name was Bambi, and she would lie on the little sofa we had in the kitchen, and everybody else in winter would climb on top of her, and that's how they slept. Frost was the other dog, and she was brilliant. Honestly, I mean, I think she understood sentences, and if I asked her to do something, she did it. Once I was on a cliff in Monterey with her, and somebody said, can she get down the cliff? And I said, sure, go down. And she leapt. It was horrifying. I should never have said it out loud. I think that dog would have baked a cake if I'd said, it was fabulous. And then the cats, each of whom had a personality. Emily was mine. She looked like a dowager. She should have had a string of pearls, always proper. Mittens, who lost hers, she didn't know what was going on in her life. She could get lost in one room, I think. Very interesting cat. Singy, who was a foundling and a Siamese, and quite a wonderful, they're bright, and he attached he used to be dressed in dog clothes and pushed around in a stroller and so forth. Who have I left out? Mittens, Emily, Singy, I forgot.
Molly?
No, Molly's a dog.
Oh, you
Anyway, yeah. A life filled with animals. I didn't have animals when I was a kid, and I yearned for them. But my parents considered that I was allergic. And I kind of was, but I kind of got over it, even with horses. We had horses too, so it was a rich growing up for my kids, I think. Yes, I think it's time for our blessing. Yes. Which we're using rosemary, which is for remembrance, and holy water, which usually includes some of the water from our water communions that we boil up, because who knows where that water comes from. So I think the only live animal we have is your puppy, Luna. Would you like to bring her up for a second? Not too close?
So I got one quick short story.
Oh, yeah.
Regarding Raider, we were driving back to New Mexico where we bought a home a long time ago, and she had never been on a road trip. I mean, he had never been on a road trip. So we had him in a little cage in the water, everything perfect. And then after about halfway through the trip, we were both startled because it was a cat that could talk. And she said one word. We didn't know she was getting car sick. Help. Both of us looked like we know there's nobody else in this car. We turned around and looked. I pulled over as fast as I could, and she got rid of whatever was bothering her and got her in. But we both stopped like,
What?
she didn't say it. I didn't say it. The cat said, "Help!" Boom. That was it.
Wow.
Wow.
She was pretty.
Little spooky.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, what are we gonna do with Miss
So,
Luna?
Luna, may you have a long life, good health, and may you somehow know how much your family loves you.
And keep wagging your tail.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, do you have cookies? Okay.
Laurel, I always wondered where my taxes go. Now I know they went to fly tax to Bangladesh.
What?
I now know that where my taxes go, to fly your tax to Bangladesh because of the State Department. Taxpayer,
This is, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, did I step on your line? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. This is part of a poem by Pablo Neruda. My dog has died. I buried him in the garden. Someday I'll join him right there. But now he's gone with his shaggy coat, his bad manners, and his cold nose. And I, the materialist who never believed in any promised heaven in the sky for any human being, I now believe in a heaven I may never enter. Yes, I believe in a heaven for all dogs, where my dog, waits for my arrival, waving his tail like a flag in friendship. This is a poem dedicated to pain patients and their special bond with their forever pet. As we lay in bed, our pain never ending, we look to our angels who lay so close, those special to us, our lives often spending. In tears from pain, we beg to be gone. On days when the pain isn't so bad, we play with our angels, returning their love that has no limit. It's never ending, their love. We manage a smile, a chuckle or two, ever thankful for their love that's always a gift, asking nothing from us but a pat on the head, maybe a treat they know they will get, especially from us, for their unwavering loyalty and love, our beloved pets. Our angels, they come in many sizes and shapes. We really don't care, do you? To us, they are perfect from their nose to their tail. They may bring a toy from their bed where they never sleep, as our bed is their bed. Why can't some see? We gladly share our pillow, our bed we don't care, you see. Our angels we love very deeply with each passing day. On a day fraught with pain, they know it's their job to snuggle so close to lay and protect us. When our tears begin falling, their sweet little faces, they get right next to us, letting us know they'll never leave us. You see, they are a precious gift, an angel from God. We give all we have to keep them near. For you see, they share a love not understood by many humans. So what we believe, any unkind word from you matters. Not you see, these critters, these angels, are ours to care for till they cross that rainbow bridge. A few of you brought pictures for this table. Do you have another animal you'd like to say a word about? Yes.
My orange kitty up there, Spike. Spike was a girl, and I adopted her at the age of 5 from an acquaintance who had to start traveling a lot and was looking for a place for Spike. And she said when she turned her over, "Spike is a left shoulder kitty. She'll show you what she means." And sure enough, she would come and she would look up at you like, "Pick me up." And as soon as you went to pick her up, she'd go right for that left shoulder, hook her paws over. We would walk around the house and look at things, and she was the most well-adjusted, cooperative cat. She lived to be 19, and she died in her sleep. All the other pets I've had, I either lost to a lost relationship, or they had to go to the vet to say goodbye. But Spike came one night, and she'd gotten very arthritic, so you couldn't pick her up anymore. But she told me, "Get down on the floor, I want to be with you." And I sat down and petted her, and she went in my lap a little. And that night, she died in her sleep.
It still hurts. And it's because we love them so much and they brought us so much joy. Other pictures up here or another story about an animal? Yes, ma'am?
It was just interesting. My first apartment after college was in Georgetown with my best friend who had one more year to go at American University. So we found one apartment that was sort of between her university and my job. And we decided we wanted cats. So Louise and I found a lady, cat lady, who had a thing called Noah's Ark. And we said we wanted to have, each of us wanted a cat. And so she gave us brothers, or I guess they were brothers or sisters, but gave us 2 cats, 2 kittens. And they lived with us in the apartment. And they were very, they were very nice cats. They would go everywhere. My cat would follow her cat anywhere she went. And we were on the first floor with a very low window, kind of like the window over there, where the cats could climb out of the window and play. And it was in a corner where there was a grassy area. And so, we'd come home from work, we'd open the window, and they'd jump out, and while I was cooking, I could watch them, and they would be playing outside, very happily together. Well, it happened one day, I took my cat in, for shots or something, and I mentioned to the vet that this cat seemed to like the walls and would kind of stay by the walls, and I had no idea why she would do this. The vet sort of examined her and finally said, you know what? She has no cones in her eyes. She can't see. And all of a sudden it occurred to me she was using her brother as a seeing eye cat. And that's what the whole following each other and, sticking next to him because she could follow him. She literally could not see. And that was her way of handling it. It made me nervous when she went outside, but when she went outside, she always stayed close to the window, whereas if Louise's cat went out and decided she was going to go down a ways, my cat always stayed there because she knew she couldn't see and she wasn't going any further. Unfortunately, 6 months later, I moved into a group house with people who were allergic to cats, so I could not keep her. And I was concerned because how many people are going to take my friend Louise had moved out and gotten married, and she took her cat. And how many people were going to take a cat that can't see? So I called the lady back at Noah's Ark, and I said, I love this cat. And she's a real sweetie, but she can't see. And the lady said, I'll take her back, no problem. And she took her back. I have no idea what happened to her. But it was just amazing to watch the two cats together and how they helped each other.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I should mention that over my life I've had 3 horses, which of whom I love.
Wow.
Hector I had into his old age, but losing a horse, it was a very painful experience. Any other reminiscences before we move to the next section?
When I was 5, I got my first pet. It was my pet Whiskers, my cat. And that poor cat put up with a lot. She was so good. I used to dress her up in baby clothes and take her in a carriage and walk her down the street. And people would go, can I see your baby? And they go, oh.
Okay, well, go ahead.
They will not go quietly. The pets who've shared our lives. In subtle ways, they let us know their spirit still survives. Old habits still can make us think we hear them at the door, or step back when we drop a tasty morsel on the floor. Our feet still go around the place the food dish used to be, and sometimes, coming home at night, we miss them terribly. And although time does bring new friends and a new food dish to fill, that one place in our hearts belongs to them, and always will. So this is a closing blessing by UU Minister Maureen Killeran. For the blessing of animal companions, we give thanks. For the beautiful ones, whose fur is silky and whose tails are long, whose feathers are brilliant or whose voices are splendid, we give thanks. For the frantic ones, the runts and the hungry who run for a food bowl or a pat as though this is life's last possible gift, we give thanks. For the obnoxious ones, the heads that butt against us as we're trying to sleep, the bodies that refuse to learn discretion as they make digestive gifts, we give thanks. For those who bark and purr and growl and mew, for all who squeak or squawk or snarl or hiss, we give thanks. For the animals unknown to us, those whose niche in life's web is fragile, whose lives are insecure. For all who care for them and wish them well, we give thanks. Blessed are the animals. Blessed are the creatures who live with us and need our care. Blessed are the mammals and the reptiles and the birds and the fish who teach us we are not alone. Blessed are all living things from whom we learn to love. Our extinguished chalice is now officially extinguished. And we have a song. We'll try a few verses and see if you'll sing along. It's easy enough, but I don't want it to be a solo.
It's in the program.
A place in the choir.
Is that in the program? I guess so. Oh, good, good, good.
All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. Listen to the top where the little bird sings all the melodies on the high notes ringing. And the hoot owl cries over everything. And the blackbird disagrees. Singing in the nighttime, singing in the day, when little duck quacks and he's on his way, and the otter hasn't got much to say, and the porcupine talks to himself. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. The dogs and the cats, they take up the middle, and the honeybee hums and the cricket fiddles. The donkey brays and the pony neighs, and the old gray badger sighs. Listen to the bass, it's the one on the bottom, and the bulldog croaks and the cutthroat hippopotamus moans and groans with a big to-do, and the old cow just goes moo. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. Thank you. Some of you really tried. Okay. So apparently there's some treats.
There's treats, and there's treats for people, too.
Oh, for me.
Guess what? Animal crackers. So be mindful if you eat
Animal crackers.
Actually, we should be mindful when we eat animals.
Absolutely. Excuse me, it's sealed.
I think this can be our reception after the service, eating animal crackers. So thank you. I thank you for the stories. They were really rich and wonderful. I appreciated everyone's participation.
Just what I want.
Thank you for coming.
No